real conversations, and some hard truths. Gangs, drugs, and guns. Giving a voice to those willing to sacrifice. We have stories that need to be told. We have lessons that need to be taught. Protect and serve. Welcome to The Quiet Professional. Hey everybody, welcome back. Nathan Romas with you. Today we're going to be talking about the Canadian Forces, intelligence, and some of the response to the gang or criminal network presence and things that touch on the forces. For that, I have Sergeant Philip Daniels of the Canadian Forces Military Police here. Phil joined the military in 2005 as infantry with the 3rd Battalion, Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry. And then in 2008, he was deployed to Afghanistan and received a command commendation for actions under enemy fire in Afghanistan, as well as another commendation for rebuilding community relations at CFB Wainwright. In 2011, Phil moved to the military police and spent 5 years at CFB Wainwright before moving to the Canadian Forces National Investigation Service, where he worked on major cases such as sexual offenses. And then in 2020, he moved over to the criminal intelligence section, where we kind of crossed paths, and been working on some different projects ever since then, and different events, I guess I should say. So welcome, Phil.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I was just saying, like, we've kind of crossed paths at a number of events now, and we've had a few meetings and stuff. So you're kind of working in the same world I am in dealing with the gangs or organized crime.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe tell us a little bit to start what that's been like, how your life's been going right now.
Well, right now it's been really busy.
Yeah.
Especially getting back from everything slowing down over COVID, and now everything is back in full swing. So find my weekends are fairly full, going around to different places across Canada.
Yeah. You were saying you were like, we were just talking this past week at one of the events we were working, and you were saying the amount of travel you did. And man, I didn't know you were like, you're Canada wide, but you're come back for 5 days and then you're out to another place and you're working all these different events. And they were mostly biker related, right? Like OMG, Outlaw Motorcycle Gang stuff.
Yeah, like Outlaw Motorcycle Gang related, and some of the veteran groups as well too.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Well, we're going to get into the veteran groups, especially. I did a post online recently, and one guy was kind of challenging me on this, which was interesting to see, because he's labeled as a security expert or professional security, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get into talking about the OMG groups, veteran groups, and then there's the police ones and all these other things.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll start kind of at the beginning and tell us about you, where you're from, and what growing up was like.
So I've actually been really fortunate and really unique in my career. I grew up in the town of Redwater, about 45 minutes north of Edmonton. So I'm an Alberta boy through and through, born in Fort Mac. Parents moved down to Redwater when I was little, and so throughout my entire career, I've been fortunate enough to stay in Alberta. So I just really, really, really fortunate. And then aside from work, I always try to make sure that I find time to go out and do some fun things. So I like hunting, I like sport shooting, and almost your stereotypical Albertan. So.
What is? Do you have any family history in the military?
No, my grandfather, World War II. I'm actually first generation Canadian. My mom was French, my dad was British. So my parents know, but my grandparents, we've had a very lengthy, on both sides of the family, very lengthy military history that's gone back to the on my dad's side to the 1700s, 1600s. So
wow,
oh yeah, it's been pretty prevalent in the family.
Do you does your family kind of pass down any of those stories, especially from that long ago, or even any heirlooms, any kind of cool stuff you collected?
I have some of my grandfather's medals from World War II, which is pretty interesting. I didn't realize the depth of the military history in my family until my uncle in Scotland. He started doing a family tree, because in Europe they keep records forever that date back to the 12th century, the 13th century. he was able to track down and find her military history. And then he was able to talk with extended relatives over in Austria and track down the family side down there too.
Wow.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Man, is it got any kings or anything in the bloodline?
Yeah, right. I wish. No, no, I don't. And then I have another uncle. He was actually city of Calgary police for 30 plus years.
Okay.
So it was almost written somewhere that fate had decided that the two should connect, and I ended up in military police.
Yeah. Well, especially doing this job now. Um, well, so when you were looking at going into the military, is there anything that kind of pushed you in that direction? So was it whether it was people or maybe you just watched a lot of movies? But
It was a little bit of both. I had a really good one of my mom's really good family friends when we were growing up. Her son joined the military, and I used to hear his stories. And then watching movies. And when I was going through school, I was always interested in the military side for policing. And I kind of when I graduated, I spent a few years kind of hopping around from job to job before I could really decide what I wanted to do. And then once September 11th happened, I decided, back and forth about the military. And then finally in 2003, I walked into the recruiting center and said, you know what, this is what I want to do.
nice.
And the infantry at the time had always appealed to me. So the infantry was my first choice.
You always wanted to be a ground pounder.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So and then I walked into the recruiting center and said, "Here I am." And of course, it's a long process. Still a long process to get through. And then 2005, I went to lovely Saint Jean, Quebec, and started my basic training. And then by December 2005, I was back in Edmonton.
Yeah. So that you were saying in your bio, which I didn't read off this part because we were going to end up talking about it, but you spent your whole career in the military has been posted out of Alberta.
Yep, posted in Alberta. So I've been. But the way it works with the infantry, when you're in a particular regiment, so the PPCLI, you're generally going to find yourself either in Edmonton or Shiloh, Manitoba, maybe Gagetown or Wainwright for teaching. So 3 PPCLI is based out of Edmonton, so I was in Edmonton, and then when I put in my occupational transfer, I actually tried to leave and go to either coast, and they were like, "Nope, Wainwright seems like a good decision for you." So we'll send you off.
Sounds just like the Mounties. Just like, yeah, that's nice. Here's what I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just the luck of the draw. I mean, it could be worse. It could be a lot worse.
Oh, exactly. I actually have nothing but good things to say about my time in Wainwright. Wainwright was actually really, really good. We have a really good relationship with the RCMP, and we did a lot of work together out there. And the people out there are great. It's if you're in a small community and you foster that building of a relationship in a community, it just makes life so much easier.
Yeah. Well, and when you're out, so you're out as infantry and you get deployed. I think it was 2008. You went over to Afghanistan. Can you talk a little bit about being deployed and what that's like on family life?
It's pretty hard. I don't want to talk about how the infantry works today because I've been out of it for so long now.
Mm-hmm.
But back, we were doing a ton of preparation training because the planners and the powers that be, they know this particular unit is going to be going over to Afghanistan at this particular time. So you do the road to high readiness. You do all your pre-deployment training. You find yourself away from home quite a bit. I think in the lead up, if I remember right, in the lead up to deploying in February of 2008, we were pretty much gone for 7 to 8 months prior to that leaving. A month in.
So you're still in Canada?
Yeah, you're still in Canada, but
wow.
we did like a month in Shiloh. We would do a month in Wainwright, then some time down in Suffield, and then we go back up to Wainwright for a bit. And then in between, you would have to do to assist with other units that are getting ready, or courses that are running where they need infantry soldiers to run around. and things like that. So it was actually it was pretty hard. Like I had at the time, I had a infant son, and you miss out on a bunch of those milestones and everything.
Hmm.
But fortunately, I have a very supportive family, so that made it a lot much easier. And then in deploying, I actually deployed while my wife was pregnant,
Oh, really?
and yeah, but the fate worked out, and I managed to come home for a couple of weeks for the birth of my child, and then 9 days after she was born, back on plane back to Afghanistan.
Wow.
So yeah, I was fortunate in that respect because there was definitely some people that while they were deployed, parents would die or family members would die or they would have
Hmm.
the birth of children and just the logistics of everything and where we were out and about. You can't immediately just jump on a plane and go home. So I was very fortunate in that regard. And unfortunately, some of my colleagues were missed out on some very important life events just because of the tempo and the location.
Yeah, I guess that, you're out in the middle of some desert somewhere, or you're in the middle of a battle of some sorts, or you're about to be, like, they're not sending anybody in to come take you out of there. Just you specifically, like, nobody's considered a special case necessarily.
That's right, and like I don't want to come across to be like make it sound like the army's cold hearted or anything because they're not when it comes to that. But it just literally comes back to the realism of the situation
Yeah.
and can they get you out right now? The flip side of that is during that time period, you also knew when you were deploying that is a possibility that if something happens back home, you can't get on a plane right away, and the chances of you being able to get home right away are very slim.
Okay.
So,
All right. Um, while you were deployed, you said you ended up getting the command commendation.
yep.
Can you talk about that scenario and what's A stand? Because you say actions under enemy fire.
Afghanistan. Sorry, that's the military lingo.
Oh, okay, just Afghanistan.
Yeah, A standards is kind of some
Yeah.
short form typing. Yeah, yeah. I don't think of it as anything special, but basically we were just out on a patrol and we got ambushed, and my fire team partner and I we got the area we were in. We were kind of separated from the rest of our section, and we kind of just held our ground and returned fire. We engaged, and fortunately, everybody got out all right. But it's special to note there that my section commander, Jason Kapitaniuk, at the time, he actually ended up being awarded the Medal of Military Valor for that day as well too, because he was actually running around and rallying all the troops in the section and getting us it's called the X, getting us off of
Yeah.
the kill zone so that we could all get out. We all got out safe. So it it was a hair raising time, and yeah.
So when you're out there, like when in your infantry, you're not in any type of vehicles, or you just like out walking and then get ambushed.
So it's interesting because 3PCL at the time, that's where all the jumpers were coming from, like the paratroopers. We were known as a light battalion, so we did a lot of work by foot. When you deployed to Afghanistan, though, it wasn't realistic that you were on foot all the time. So actually, we spent a portion of the 2 years prior to deploying getting mechanized and getting used to use the LAV 3 at the time. So my job overseas, I actually I did both. I was a lab driver for a good chunk, and then I was also a dismount, and then I would also fill out on patrols as well too when individuals were gone. And the situation over there was very fluid and dynamic. So you could get ambushed, or you could hit IED strikes. Happens in vehicles, on foot. It just it was a very fluid situation.
Well, and which of the two would you say is actually probably scarier? Is driving the vehicle or actually being out on foot? Because I'm just thinking of movies. You always see the driver always takes it first, or you drive over something that explodes.
Yep,
At
yep.
least on foot, I can maybe be nimble and get away from something.
It's to be honest, when you first when I first got there, that would be on my mind, what happens and everything else. And unfortunately, we did lose some really good soldiers over there, namely the IED strikes. And um, ideally, I wouldn't want to be in either situation.
Yeah, yeah.
But I honestly look at it as both are not ideal situations to be in. So either one, for lack of a better term, has its advantages and its disadvantages.
Okay.
So
So you were in infantry for several years, and then you ended up moving over to CFB Wainwright,
yep.
and you became involved in doing like investigations. Well, that must be quite the departure from marching around in Afghanistan to
100
being at home and doing investigations.
100%. Like it was, there was a couple of years where when I first got back and I was debating what I wanted to do. I had actually put in to go back right back to Afghanistan when we got back in the first place, but unfortunately, my father was diagnosed with terminal cancer, so I ended up not going. And then I started to become a little to see what was happening to individuals that were coming back with at the time with mental health problems and with injuries.
Okay.
And then I was like, what am I going to do if I find myself in a position where all of a sudden I'm hurt or I can no longer continue in the military? And all my, because I don't have any post secondary or anything. And so what am I going to do? Like if I get injured or if I end up medically released from the military or something, what skills can I bring to the table, right? So I was looking at RCMP or originally going intelligence through the military, and then I met with the base personnel selection officer, and the particular unit I wanted to go into. She's like, "Well, yeah, I need to be a member of the military police," and I'm like, "Well, I can't. I don't have any post secondary or anything." I'm like, "Maybe I'll look at the RCMP then." And she goes, no. She said, they brought in a waiver that if you had done an overseas deployment, they would waive the post-secondary education requirement. You still have to go through the selection process, but they waived the post-secondary selection process.
Okay.
So I went through that process, got picked up, and then ended up in Wainwright. And the irony is not lost on me because Wainwright is one of the big infantry training bases.
Yeah.
So it was kind of good to bring that background to the table, working on that base, because it helps. Because mindsets are different in different portions of the military. So if you deal with somebody that's at combat arms, like an infantry, armor, or artillery, combat engineer, they might have a little bit more of a stern attitude when you're dealing with them.
Oh, I see.
By somebody that's in a work field or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's also nice too because a lot of the military police members at the time were right off the street, so they've done their police foundations or their bachelor's degrees or whatever. But then they're dealing with military members, but they don't have any exposure to the military culture.
Yeah.
So which can make your job hard. It can make your job really, really hard.
That's the same kind of concern or gripe that police have, even within the police circles, right? If somebody's gets promoted to a spot that you're like, man, they got no background in that. Like, why are they doing that?
Yeah.
And sometimes the service just puts people in places because they need a body there.
That's right.
Other times it is a good decision. Sometimes it's not.
No.
When you were in that section, you said and I know this from having helped a few times with military police investigations that cross over kind of off the base into the city. So you're dealing with sexual offenses, but is that kind of the biggest thing you would do? Like if it was a murder, the local police service is coming to deal with it. But what do you investigate in there? What kind of crime types?
So with the mandate is CFNIS is serious and sensitive investigations. So that can be up to a lot of interpretation. But basically, yes, in the case of a murder, we would definitely refer that to a local police jurisdiction that can provide the technical know-how. right?
Yeah.
And have that experience. But I've done everything from worked on attempted murders to aggravated sexual assaults, sudden deaths. The military investigates every death on D&D property, regardless of the circumstance.
Okay.
So even if a sudden death, suicide, training deaths, things like that. I've investigated all sorts of those, but the majority were sexual offenses. 100%. The majority of the workload was sexual.
And is that just like guys or girls bringing somebody back to base and stuff? Something happens on base, or is that even when they go off of base?
It's a kind of complicated question to answer, but because the way the jurisdiction for the military police is full jurisdiction over D&D property and equipment, and also members that are subject to the Code of Service Discipline. So a regular force member, a full-time member, is subject to the Code of Service Discipline, regardless of where he or she are, and 24/7. Reserve members, so the part-time members, if they're on a full-time contract, then they're subject to the Code of Service Discipline, so they could fall under us. But if they're just doing the regular parade nights and everything, it's only when they're on D&D property or D&D uniforms or doing a D&D related activity. A lot of times, what would happen is if we had say a sexual assault that happened in Edmonton, we would call over and just be like, "Hey, Edmonton Police, we got this complaint. It happened in your area. Do you want to investigate it? Do you want us to investigate it?" Like, we're basically just letting you guys know what had happened.
Okay.
Now, because and I just want to lay it out there that everything we talk about here is my interpretation. I'm not speaking on behalf of the CAP, the Canadian Forces or the military police branch, but they now it's a victim-centric approach.
Okay.
So if the victim comes to us and is and we have the ability to investigate, it's within our jurisdiction, and the victim goes, "No, I want the other police service of jurisdiction." So Edmonton is generally RCMP, unless it happened in the city of Edmonton. Then the file gets would be referred over to them. But we do have victims that say, "No, I want the military police to do the investigation." So then our guys would conduct the investigation.
Okay. Well, and one thing maybe you can explain this too is what's and if for listeners who don't know, like there's military jail and then there's civilian jail. So I did a tour once at the military one at the garrison, and it did not look like a fun place. There's a lot of rules, all the lines on the floor that you got to follow around, and you're only like they had rooms where you're not allowed to touch walls, and like they got a lot of rules for you. So can you kind of explain what the difference is between, or like how someone might end up in that jail as opposed to civilian jail, like the Edmonton remand or something?
Absolutely. I actually spent about a 9-month period when I was switching over from military from the infantry to the military police, working at the jail.
Oh, okay.
So that was that's quite an experience, and the big difference is the purpose of the military prison is or was then, I'm assuming it hasn't changed now, is basically to help rehabilitate the member and have them go back as either a functional member of the military or as a functional member of society, or prepare them for the eventual transfer over to civilian.
Okay.
And what would get you sent to military prison, military members, if they were charged under the military justice system and convicted by a military court-martial, or I've never heard of it happening, but apparently too, like if you're a civilian attached to the military and you're working overseas and something happens there, then you could end up getting sentenced to military prison.
Okay. Well, and yeah, that was kind of something they explained a little bit. I want to say back, this is maybe 8 years ago when I did this tour.
Yep.
And they were talking about just how, I guess, when you get into the military, most of the people that come in already have some sort of structure and they're used to discipline and having some stuff regimented. Because when you're in there, like you're folding your beds, you're polishing everything.
Yes.
They're giving you a million tasks to keep you busy. Not like that in a normal jail.
Yep.
So I guess the people, the police would arrest on the day-to-day, or what, a person that you might think of generally might just come from some place where they literally have zero structure, never had anything that where they're responsible for anything. So they kind of don't have that in the jail for them to do. It was a pretty different dynamic when you talk about it. Can people do both though? So if you get convicted under the military side, can you serve time there and then go over to a civilian jail? Like if it's
So yeah, the military prison. So the most amount of time you could spend in the military prison was 2 years less than a day. So, for example, if you're convicted of let's say an aggravated sexual assault, and you got a 6 year or 7 year prison sentence, in theory, you could end up spending 2 years less a day in the military prison, and then be transferred over to a civilian prison.
oh really?
Um, yeah, and people convicted also had the option to apply. I'm not too familiar with the process, but it did happen a few times when I worked there. But they could apply to actually transfer over to a civilian prison to get out of the military prison. It's not a quick overnight process. It usually takes a few months, but some of the members that were there sentenced, a year or the 2 years less a day would they would apply to do that to be able to facilitate their release to somewhere close to home or where family could come.
Oh, I was just about to ask, like, why would you ever want to go from the military side to the civilian? I guess if you want to not do anything and have zero responsibility. However, you're in there with a lot of random people, as I would imagine, way more dangerous.
100%, absolutely. Like, the thing about the military prison is, you went there, you worked, you worked, you got up, your entire day was regimented, and you would have breaks worked in there, you would have some free time worked in there, but you spent your days cleaning, doing maintenance things, whatever was on the schedule for that day. Working out, you had set times for working out and everything else. The hardest thing I think a lot of people had was when you first got in, you can't, the inmates can't talk, so you can't talk to each other.
Oh,
You
really?
can't talk, you can't associate with each other. Yeah. So that was definitely quite the concept, and there was no. You earned your privileges. So if you were a smoker and you had come into the prison at the time, you had to earn the eventual privilege to have a cigarette break or have a cigarette.
Wow.
You had to earn the privilege to watch TV. So it's very very strict and very regimented, and very effective. But there are not a lot of frequent reoffenders that come back to a military prison.
Yeah, I imagine people aren't too excited to, double up their time there. um, so talking about all these investigations, kind of move us on to some of the stuff that you're doing now, but also your time when you were with the investigative service. What have you ever dealt with a file where people have been stealing, like, national security secrets or documents and stuff? Like, did that fall under your mandate at the time?
No, like a lot of the national security stuff, I wouldn't deal with. We have like our national counterintelligence unit, and they would deal with that. And then of course there's CSIS as well too, and then the RCMP and INSET and all that, all those types of groups. Generally, like um, if anybody was ever that I've seen so far, anybody that's been under those types of investigations, it doesn't follow us.
Okay. So maybe we'll talk about your current position then with the criminal intelligence section. What is under your mandate right now? Who do you kind of look for?
Yeah, our thing is we're looking for the criminal intelligence section as a whole. We provide the military police as a whole, tactical and strategic criminal intelligence. We also look for CAF members involved in criminality or criminal events, trends, and things like that that could have a direct effect on the Canadian forces and can potentially involve criminal offenses.
Okay. Well, and like when we've worked together, generally, yeah, you're kind of on the intel side. So you guys are at these events, taking pictures and recording things, the who's who, and and knowing, kind of who the players are in the game.
Yep.
Do you have you ever seen from your time? Is there any specific is there a particular group like OMG groups or right wing extremism that is an issue within the forces? Like, is one more prevalent or more influential?
And this is just based off my own thoughts, my own opinions, and what I've seen myself. But
Yeah.
there has been an issue in the past with extremism and the Canadian forces. Absolutely, like anybody that follows Canadian history, Canadian military history, is well aware of the events of the '90s.
Yeah.
And all the problems that came out of that. My concern and my thoughts right now are the interaction between CAF members and OMGs. That's a really big concern of mine and my bosses and the CAF as a whole. So when there was it's called the Camphor that was released back in 2018 that covered hateful conduct and racism in the Canadian forces, and a lot of members, it's in there, but a lot of members aren't aware. But there is the caveat in there too that also says that Canadian Forces members are prohibited from associating with known criminals, organized crime groups, known crime groups, and things like that. And unfortunately, I think a lot of groups start off with their own goodwill and their own good centric ways, but then they end up being associated.
Well, and that's kind of the thing that like I was saying, I've had debates online with a few people about, but it's, you have these groups that emulate. So you have the veterans clubs and they want to look the look and, talk the talk and do everything that an OMG does. But then when someone questions it, they go, oh, but I don't do the criminal part. Like, why are you emulating that then? Why don't you create your own thing, right? Be a leader. Don't be a follower. So, we don't have to have the top and bottom rocker and the centerpiece. And a lot of these groups, not all of them, but a lot of them do go and ask permission to wear these things.
Yep.
So that's what I don't think the public realizes is there is some level of expectation where they go and ask, hey, I want to wear this because if you don't, and this is from somebody I've talked to was involved in one of these groups from the firefighters side, not in Edmonton.
Yep.
But they actually went to one of the support clubs and met up with a Hells Angel member and some other people at the support club and said like, hey, here's our patch. Here's what we're about. Here's all the things, like doing a big pitch to them saying, we're not intruding on your territory. I thought this was fascinating.
Yeah.
But it also made me, I was just like, how can you be saving lives or, out here fighting a drug war and then you're doing this on the other side of things?
Exactly.
So, I don't know, what are your kind of thoughts around that? I don't know if you've ever been able to talk directly to some of these guys or maybe through an investigation, like what they say.
And here's the problem. You hit the nail right on the head with the emulation. If what I find concerning is I have talked to a few of these guys, but when you talk to them, they're like, "We're not going to talk to you. We don't want to talk about club business. We don't want to, So okay, well, if you want the police to stop paying attention and maybe disassociate you guys, maybe just let us know. Let us know why when you're holding an annual party or something, all of a sudden you have half of a chapter of the Hells Angels showing.
Yes.
Or there's a Hells Angels ride, and suddenly a bunch of members from your club are showing up and participating in the ride.
Yeah.
Like,
well, even the attitude right off the beginning, just like how you said it, that's exactly how a majority of the interactions begin. I'm not telling you, or I'm not allowed to tell you.
Yeah.
Well, who says that? The Hells Angels group or one of those other equivalents? Like that's who says that. So, you're right on. But sorry, go ahead.
No, and it is concerning because there are obviously I'm not going to go into numbers and stuff, and people know who they are, but there are CAF members that are active serving CAF members that associate with these groups. They're not members of the groups, like there's not members of the Hells Angels or anything that, but associating through these clubs, and then you try to talk to them about it, and it's no, we won't talk to you.
Yeah.
So, and it gets to the point where you have to balance out. All right, is this particular member or members, are they starting to become a security risk?
Mm-hmm.
Is there going to be a security risk that the Joe Bloggins that's in charge of ammunition or weapons, right, or sensitive equipment or information, all of a sudden he gets called in, he or she gets called in, and asked to provide something for their club or for another club.
I like that you said she, because we have dealt with, as the gang suppression team, we have dealt with females through our own job that have been associated to Hells Angels members, have been friends with them, and do give us that attitude. And yeah, it's not just guys. There's girls involved, and there are girl clubs as well.
Yep. No, that's absolutely it. And then on the other hand, too, I've talked with my boss at length about this as well too. Another concern is can be retired members that are now employed by the D&D as a civilian, and working on cases as a civilian as well too. So unfortunately, it can be the exact same concerns as it is with an active serving CAF member. But you're working on the base and you're working with high value equipment, people, things like that. Is there a risk there? Absolutely.
Well, I think it also, some of the concern, at least from the police side, is dealing with people and the training they receive, and then the training that they pass on. And that's like everything from weapons training to explosives. There's a lot of safety concerns, security concerns, especially when it comes to those things. Well, one thing I want to see if maybe we could get your view on is what happens with these people that, so you start seeing, okay, I'm taking a picture or something at one of these runs that they do, and what's kind of like a very generalized path that, okay, I got this picture or I saw this person at this run. What happens now?
Yeah, so we like after everything's done, we do our reports. We sit around and we talk, and we do look at what the way ahead is going to be. Do we talk to certain internal organizations about security clearances? Should this person's security clearance be reviewed? Should we talk to their chains of command? Should we be like, hey, like your member was identified as this? The big thing is if we're dealing with a military member at one of these events, or you're dealing with a military member at one of these events, and you start becoming confrontational, or aggressive, right? Because there's mechanisms within the military that can be dealt with. We also look at like where the member currently is, and is there a risk with where they're working right now? And I know, speaking with different levels of chain of command throughout the military, like I haven't yet spoken to one person that's been like, it's okay, just let these guys do it. Everybody's like, why are these members doing this? And what? So.
Well, it's people always bring that up where they talk about there's some police club. I've never seen this in Alberta. Maybe there's some here. I want to say maybe it's more of a US thing. But there are police motorcycle clubs, and they too wear the top rocker, bottom rocker. They have their centerpiece. And some of the arguments have been, well, by us wearing it as the police, we're taking the power away from those other groups. I don't buy into that at all, mainly because, well, you don't have as good a marketing strategy as the, maybe the Hells Angels or one of those groups, because they're everywhere and they got movies and they're on all the social media. Like, you're not taking any power away from anybody. If anything, you should be going in a different direction. Like I said, being a leader, creating your own thing. So I wonder too, like with the military clubs, and kind of like you're saying, like when you go talk to some of these guys, they might be confrontational, but I've had a number of them that I'm not sure they are so aware of what they got themselves into. So it's not to say like as soon as you see a patch, this guy's a bad guy or girl, and they're doing all these criminal things. There's a lot of people I think getting involved that um, maybe on the surface of it, maybe they kind of see and go like, there's some things I'm not like a fan of, but they don't just see straight up criminality. Like they're not just sitting there watching a robbery go down with all their friends inside. But once they start going to the runs, see the interactions with the police, and they go, you know what, like I'm not really good with that, and then they kind of get out of the lifestyle. So do you guys see a bit of that going on?
Absolutely. Like there's some members that we've seen you'll see all of a sudden who's this person. Oh, they're hanging around with this group, and then all of a sudden they're gone, and they're not associating anymore. And you also see it too, like you also see too where some of these groups still go out to a big event and they'll ride out there, and then you'll see they tuck themselves away. They don't even associate with any of the OMG members.
Yeah.
Like you can see in some cases you can actually see that they're actually not comfortable being there, but they're there because the club's there. So yeah. So
I guess maybe it's kind of like even just when you have like a squad at work, and it's like, well, your boss can kind of form where the group's going, or maybe you have one or two senior people who decide to go and do something. It changes that culture in there. So you were talking about some of these retired members. This is one of the interesting things I've noticed at some of the runs is where you have like maybe a dozen or 24 actual full patch wearing biker types. And then you have like 100 of these guys from these groups. So one of the groups that we see out there is the Commandos,
Yep.
and they're at these runs, and they're kind of made up of civilian members as well as retired members.
no, they're all 99% of them are retired military members,
Okay.
and not necessarily from Canada, but retired.
Oh, okay, and not even from necessarily Canada.
Yeah, there's a couple that are from outside.
Okay. Are they all, but was there a component where some could be civilians that worked for the military? They wear a different patch?
Yeah, so and this is kind of like for lack of better terms, the interesting thing about it. It really is. It's interesting, and it falls in line with the emulation. So you'll have a group like them who they're full patch. They have their own club. They have their own. They're all retired military members, but then they have support clubs.
Yeah.
So and then they have their own support clubs, and then the support clubs. The majority of the members in the support clubs are civilians that have no association with the military, like maybe a family member or a friend joined the military or whatever. So when we first started seeing, they're like, yeah, we're just out here to show support for the club and everything. But we've also had times too where, much like you see on the other side of the fence, where it's the support clubs that come up to us and start being confrontational and argumentative and everything else. So
trying to get in the good books or something.
That's right.
For you, as being in the CAF, can you do anything with the retired members? Like I don't imagine you can go after somebody's pension. I think that's been tried in court on a number of different type of jobs. But once a person retires, is that it? They're just free to go do whatever you want and still say, hey, I used to work for the forces and represent yourself.
Yeah. Like unless they're still employed by the D&D, because it's common and it happens in pretty much policing as well as the military. But you'll get a member that's done their 25, 30 years or whatever. They retire, and then the next day they walk in and they're a civilian working for your agencies, right?
Yeah.
So we have the exact same thing too. And even then, like if there's no direct criminality, then it's the administration. So security clearances and things like that.
One of the things I was wondering too was, I think it was, oh man, I wouldn't even get the time frame right, but a few years ago, there was some guy who took off and he crossed the border, and I think they said he joined the base.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and that was in Manitoba. I think he crossed over.
Yep.
So, do you get a lot of these groups, I shouldn't say a lot, but I imagine you get some of this happening where they join these extremist groups. Is that a real common thing, or is that like once a year type deal?
It's I wish it was something that didn't exist in the CAF as a whole,
Hmm.
because it's just all around disgusting. But unfortunately, CAF is like any other segment of society. So you do have individuals that get drawn into that. I haven't myself personally over the last few years. I haven't seen a lot of it. I've had one or two cases that have come across, but I haven't seen a lot of it. Unfortunately, though, even with one or two cases, that means that it still doesn't.
Yeah.
With it. No.
Well, it still draws. Yeah, it just kind of brings the forces into the lens of media, and they start picking up on that and saying this is like a huge issue. But um, I've never really seen that. Like outside of the OMG groups, I haven't really heard of extremism or different things taking place. Like I've never seen those kind of come across in Edmonton, anyways.
Yep.
I think you get a lot more of those uh, sovereign citizen ideals, or the three pers and whatever other groups there are. You get more of that as you go further south,
Yeah.
like maybe around Calgary.
Yeah.
But do you see, like, is there a difference between regions in Canada? So, because you've worked events all across the nation,
Yeah.
do you think that like one area is more prevalent for OMGs or extremist groups to kind of pick from the forces?
I don't. I haven't spent enough time outside of my area. Like my area is Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Northwest Territories, and Yukon. But and the majority of time, that all being said, the majority of my time is with Alberta. But I haven't really been. While I have been traveling to all these different events, I haven't been to enough of them, I think, to really form an educated opinion about that.
Okay.
But my general thoughts are from what I'm seeing is that I think the CAF is attracted. CAF members are attracted to these groups, and these groups are also attracted to CAF members, no matter where you go.
Yeah.
So there's a risk and a possibility, and I don't I don't have enough information or enough exposure to the rest of the country to make an opinion about
Does the CAF provide any sort of training for the general membership to say like, hey, watch out for these type of groups? They might try to come in and influence you, especially like on your time off. If they see you riding around and you're wearing your fatigues, or they gotta know there's some way that these people get recruited, or at least make them aware. Like, hey, if your friend starts taking you to a rally, maybe you shouldn't be there.
So unfortunately, I'm not aware. Now that being said, there might be, but myself personally, I'm not aware of any of that training. What we have had happen is like when you go to a specific area for training, I have had it where it's been like, hey, just so you guys know, like, don't go to this place, don't go to this place,
Oh, okay.
don't associate with whatever. Usually, it gets mentioned somewhere along the lines like, hey, you guys stay away from this bar because if you go to this bar, they're known to hate military, or there's a lot of crime that happens at this bar. So we recommend you don't go to this area or don't go to this area.
Yeah.
That's my personal knowledge. Like that's the extent of it. I wish there was. It would be nice if something could be incorporated, like day one, when you're walking into the CAF, like just so you know, sometime in the training that you get a very specific brief about being told, like, hey, here's the types of, because you're a CAF member alone, here's who you are attractive to,
Yeah.
and here who could potentially try to befriend you and organize.
Yeah, and you know what? Well, hey, that's a good promotion opportunity right there. So you can take that idea and run with it. Yeah, you know what? And speaking about like national security, with a number of different guests I've had on here, when it comes to like foreign influence and so on, education is one of the biggest components that's missing. Educating the public, and in this case, we're talking about CAF members, and saying, hey, there are people who want to use you, that want to get to you because you can provide training, equipment, or whatever else it might be, some type of information. And maybe even, every few years, kind of re-upping that training, like, hey, here are some new groups. These other ones are gone. These ones are still around and they've changed their tactics. So those might be things to kind of look at. Does the CAF, like with police, we have a whole number of training days set throughout a year. Does the CAF do the same thing, like where they can just provide you with information?
The calf as a whole, I'm not aware of. I know, like myself, I set aside a few weeks every year, and I try to travel to all of my police detachments in my area, and try to educate all of our members and brief. And the two things I always brief on are extremism
Hmm.
and outlaw motorcycles. And then recently we've been we're trying to get more education, more information out to higher level chains of command as well too,
Yeah.
to allow them to make them aware that hey, there's an issue that not a lot of people are aware of, but it's an issue. And right now, uh, fortunately, knock on wood, nothing serious has happened thus far. But you need to be aware that this is happening.
Yeah, that too, really good point. The information also needs to go upward because you have, well, especially in the military, I don't know how many members you have in total, but I know just at the police service level, and we have 2,000 people, like stuff doesn't make it all the way to the chief, let alone the 4 or 5 ranks between you and him.
Right.
Uh, like you really got to push information up and find time to educate those people on what's going on because they're the policymakers and they control the budgets. So you need you need policy to be made, and then you need money to implement it. So no, I think that's a really good conversation. Um, I don't imagine we're just kind of coming up to the end of our time here, just at the hour. Is uh, is there anywhere people can follow you, or you got any social media? I don't imagine.
I don't.
I don't imagine people want to see you coming for them.
Right.
Probably not a good thing.
I like the fact that I can just show up and be like, "Hi, I'm here. We need to talk," and they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, and no, I don't. And unfortunately, like outside of work, I also lead a really busy life as well too. So
Yeah.
at this time, I don't have time to do anything. Actually, I am working on a bachelor's degree now. It only took me 30 years to decide to do it, but
Hey,
so
it's always useful,
that's right.
man. Life is just lifelong learning. So
That's right.
cool. Well, I'll say thanks for coming on. Hang on for 2 seconds.
Yeah,
I'll just stop the recording. But yeah, I appreciate having you on, man. I think this is a educational discussion that is a good place for us to start from. And I look to have more conversations in the future about these topics.
sounds good. Thanks for having me.